Welcome to the show, everyone. This is A Light and Shadow of Coaching in and Beyond Organizations production, a documentary that was made to fund social impact through coaching for women in Kenya and which has been ICF accredited with 10 CCEUs and recently has won the Ellen Shoup Coaching for Social Good Honorable Mention Award from Institute of Coaching, a Harvard Medical School affiliate based in Boston. And this is only possible because of how all contributors had faith in the documentary, bringing about the change in others' life by creating ripple effects of growth, change, and development. We believe that not everyone may need coaching, but that everyone deserves coaching, and that coaching needs to be democratized to reach levels of humans who are in less privileged parts of the world. Today's episode, the second installment of conversations with coaches, leaders, educators who either donated to support coach training for women in Kenya or made an interview contribution to the documentary or sponsored a social impact initiative or actually do it all. And they all have two things in common. They share their passion for social impact through coaching and love taking a holistic view at coaching from the light and the shadow side of our practice. The goal of this series is to give you an intimate peek behind the curtains. What is social impact through coaching for our guests? And why does social impact matter for these coaches, leaders, and educators? You'll take a look at the messy ingredients that go into a successful coaching career that combines both the light and the shadow side of coaching, and how these two sides benefit our coaching practice. I'm your host, Tünde Erdös, and if you wish to ask a question, make a comment, or recommend a guest, I invite you, send me an email at podcast@coachingdocu.com. Well, I'm here with Michael Tichelmann, who, technically speaking, produced the documentary. He's based in Austria, just the way that I am, and who I wish to have with me here, as he will have insights into the nitty-gritty details of creating coherent stories without which learning wouldn't be possible. Hi, Michael.
Hi, Tünde.
And of course, my guest today is Carla Jansen van Rosendaal. I feel deeply grateful to you for coming on this show today. And I mean it, because there is something unique about how we met and how I fell in love with how you are being you. And it was through your working with energy. When I was doing my research and motion energy in my PhD, I felt connected. And thank you for having welcomed me to your world the way you did, and how you are here today, also as a team member on the documentary. So welcome, Carla.
It's great to be here. And I am very grateful that I can be with you on this show. So I really want to thank you for that. Proud.
Yes, well, I love it that you're saying it, because you were sensitizing me today to this thing like, come on, Tünde, let this pride come in, because I was so reticent about letting pride in, and I like how you are standing up to it. Great to see that, Carla. Great to see that.
Thank you.
And there's also something that you're saying on your website that I also wish to share here with people, what really resonates strongly with me. And I would like to read out these few lines on your website where you say, I want to contribute to a more positive energy in the world. I want to achieve this by inspiring at least 1 million people worldwide to discover their own voice in their heart and to make their mindset and behavior more positive. That's truly touching. What would you say? What made you say this on your website, Carla?
Because the heart is, for me, if we are connected to our heart, we are connected to the world, to the universe, to other people, to have an impact on other people. That's how we can make an impact on other people. And there are so many people around in this world that do not have the opportunity themselves, either because they can't pay it or they live in a place where it's not available, to help these people out, to have that possibility as well, to connect to the heart, to be able to feel relaxed, to increase their power, their belief. And with that, I mean, if we empower others, they can empower others again. And so that's the ripple effect And that's how it's not that myself has to go to a million people, but the ripple effect. If I can inspire some people, they can inspire more people. So, and that's my main goal, to go for that and increase the frequency, the energy of love, and with that increase the frequency and energy in the whole world.
Oh, it's so beautiful. So I really wanted to make a point of sharing this here so that people can hear it, and you can also give voice to this, the how and the what behind of this. So yes. Thank you, Carla. So where I would like to pick up today on this installment is the first question that I would have to you is, what prompted you to say yes to coming on the team in the documentary? And where are you with being on board today?
Well, the first thing, not of course, for me it was, of course, was the women in Kenya, that you got inspired to do all this, also make possible for these women to educate them, to empower them, social impact. I mean, that is, for me, it was what I wrote on my website, what I just told you about. That was my first connection. And for me, it was like 101 is 2, like connect and help out. So contribute to the whole documentary. And this was a way I could do that.
And it's also interesting, right, how, you're saying on your website, so you want to give that the people can give their voice. I'm going back now to the lines to discover their own voice. And in their heart, you're saying, and it's so funny because when you came on the team, you said, okay, you were happy to do the synchronization version of some of the parts. So there's a French lady who is speaking as well, and you're landing your voice to her, right?
Yeah.
How is it for you to hear your own voice in somebody else's content? How was that for you when you were listening to that piece? Do you remember?
It was fun. It was really fun. And for me, I wanted to figure out what she's all saying first, because I'm not speaking French. And luckily, you had given me the written explanation of that. And I wanted to feel what was going on, what she wanted to say. And that made me connect more with the whole thing, with the subject, with the documentary, with the part of coaching. It made me think more about it, and then hear my voice back. I don't know, it was funny. It was also like, wow, I did that. Yeah, again, I was proud of myself, and not proud in the like woo-ah way, but proud that I did contribute, that
From the editor's point of view, I must say it was really easy to integrate your voice because you were really in sync. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I didn't know that. Nice to hear back. Yeah, because I could feel what she was talking about. And so I think when you're connected to what you talk about, that is where that comes out in energy.
I would like to stay with this, with discovering the voice in the heart, because it seems to be something that matters to you in your work that you do. Would you be happy that we stay a little bit before we jump into the documentary to tell us, everybody, me too, as well as the audience out there, what is this discovering our own voice in our heart?
Well, I think when we are born, we are pure. And when we grow up, we have all these other beliefs, all these social impact from parents, teachers, everybody around us. And we are getting more and more disconnected from our own heart, who we really, really are. And with that, we lose our voice, not literally, but figuratively. We are not speaking up for ourselves anymore. We are speaking from what we learned, what we see, everything. And when we get back into the connection with our own heart, we can speak from our own heart. And that's where we gain back our voice from who we are, with our opinion, our feeling, our emotion, our connection. And I think it's very, very important to find our own voice again and be proud of, I keep coming back on that word, I'm sorry to that, but be proud again of who we are, and not about what other people say we need to be.
And
So
you also have, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you have a specific approach to this, the frequency of the heart and measuring, right? The
yes.
frequency of the heart. Would you be happy to say just a few words about like how it works?
Yeah, it's about heart coherence from the HeartMath Institute in California. They did 30 years of research about the heart, the connection between the heart rhythm and what else is all working in your body. Most people know that the brain is actually arranging everything in the body, but almost nobody knows that the heart actually tells the brain first via several ways that it has to put the body into a stress reaction or a relax reaction. And by doing heart coherence, which is visible, you have a sensor and it measures the balance in your heart rhythm. And you can really see, is there stress in my heart rhythm? So I know when there's stress, what else is all happening in my body. And when there's relaxation, then other things happen in your body. And it has a lot to do when we are in sync, because that's why I talk about energy and frequency. If we have a nicely balanced heart rhythm, we are in sync with the earth frequency. It's at 0.1 hertz. And when we are that, everything in our body starts to balance. And the nice thing is that we talk a lot about positive thoughts. You need to have positive thoughts. Most people don't. They don't have it. And they're really eager to have these positive thoughts. And they think they have to work really, really hard for that.
Mm.
What they found out when we are in sync with this 0.1 hertz, that our thoughts are more positive by itself already.
Mm.
And that is where we also connect to who we are with our heart, because in stress, we go to these negative beliefs. Really easy. It goes, we have this amygdala and everything that all our belief system is in there and our automatic reactions. But if we are in sync, we are not going that quickly to all those negative old beliefs that are really not useful and not helpful at all. So it makes it a lot easier to have people thinking more positive, besides so many other effects.
It's fascinating. Yeah, it's fascinating that you're saying that, because I mean, that you're saying so few people know, right? But actually we do know. We know that there is a lot of nerves in the heart. It's a lot of nerves in the guts. I mean, there is 7,000 billion nerves, more nerves in the guts than in the brain. But still, we want to occupy ourselves with this part of ourselves rather than more go here, which is the powerhouse. I'm hearing you say this is actually, and medicine knows that when people, when the heart stops, everything stops. But when the brain stops, the heart is still beating. It will continue beating. But we're still giving the brain more priority than the heart, although it is having the precedence over the brain.
Yeah, that happened in the 17th century, that switch. Before the 17th century, it was more the heart that got the biggest place. And that's why they figured out that the brain is doing a lot for the body. And then the heart was kind of pushed away. But now we are in the era that it's slowly coming back, that the heart is getting a bigger place again. So we just have to keep going and believing that we get there and get it more out there, that the heart is the core. I mean, the heart is there when you're made, and there's a heart first before there is a brain.
Yes.
So it's completely on itself, the heart. And that's why the heart can keep going, even though the brain is, like they literally say, the brain is dead.
Yeah, I think today there are a lot of fitness trackers coming on the market where you can track your heart rate and all kind of different metrics about your body. So I think in general, the fitness movement and so on brings back kind of, we have to look into not only the brain, but our body. And on the other hand, it's really a drive to optimize oneself, not only to thinking or learning, but also through the body and training and so on.
Very important. Yeah. Like you said that. And it's a very important development And it's getting more and more out in the world that the heart takes a lot more important place in than what people thought.
Yeah. No, beautiful.
Yeah, and it's I think interesting. It's if you look back, it's already started this movement. I think coming from Asia with like yoga or Tai Chi or so on. Their breathing and the heart rhythm, I think they survived in this kind of traditions.
Yes, yes, and I love that, and I love the research from HeartMath. And I don't know if you knew that, but they actually have like several places around the world where they are measuring frequencies, and they found out if they have like global meditations, that we literally, with so much people meditating, doing heart coherence at the same time, that the frequency literally goes up. So we do have the influence to change energy in the world, and with that to change people. And I know it's not going to be from today to tomorrow, but we do have that power. So stay into a peaceful state, and send out what you want to send out to make this a better, relaxed, more positive world.
Before we really go to the documentary, because it's such a beautiful topic for me, it's so inspiring to speak about it, because I so much believe in this, the power of the heart, without which nothing is possible, that I could talk and on with you. And I still feel like I have a question about it. Do you think would you have a story, an example to share, that you work with a client to exemplify, something that happened when working with the people on their heart frequency, or working through HeartMath with them?
Somebody comes to mind that it was a lady. She was already for 8 years into a burnout, and she was totally disconnected from basically herself. And she only could be at negative thoughts, and she had a lot of complaints physically, and had a hard connection. I mean, she had a very great marriage and kids, but she could feel that the connection wasn't really there like she wanted it to be. And she was so motivated to do this heart coherence. And even though, because she was such a long time in a burnout already, I told her it's going to be for a while. I mean, she did change a lot of things. We worked on our beliefs, etc. But she kept going for it. And then suddenly, after a couple of months, and it took her a couple of months, but she was dedicated and she kept doing it. And then suddenly we had this turnaround. And that's where she emotionally also got connected. And I could see her, and she felt it, like softness was there. And it really influenced her relationships with her kids, with her husband. She became more strong to say no, because she had a family. That connection wasn't really good, but they influenced her a lot, and she didn't dare to say no to that. So she stepped up and said no, and started her own life, actually. And she was so happy with that, because she got connected with herself, her power, her love, and in a relaxed way. So she really could get in touch with herself, but also the people around her. And she became a coach.
Oh, she became a coach. And I just wanted to say, like, look at this, because how working on this connectedness to the heart is, you said, like, softness, but at the same time strong, right? So the heart is soft and strong at the same time.
Yes.
In a beautiful, balanced way, that and we don't need a lot more, actually, when the heart is beating. And that's at least how it sounds to me, what you're saying, the story that you're telling.
Yeah, that's how I look at it. Yes. We are powerful when we're soft. That's how I look at it.
Beautiful. It's also, now that I was speaking about soft and strong, I picked it up somehow. I don't know, it resonated with me. And then we also have in the documentaries this light and shadow, two opposites, sort of, yeah?
Yeah.
Although soft and strong doesn't need to be an opposite. It's not an opposite per se. But there is something around two sides of a coin, so to speak. If you think back to what you watched in the 3 parts of the documentary, and what is for you a moment about light and dark light and shadow where you thought, okay, this is really important for us to know about? What struck you as important?
For me, and I think it struck me because that's what I already feel for years, and I was so glad it came out in the documentary, is the fact that a lot of coaches are not a coach. They might have a paper, they might have done an education, but they're not connected. And I don't know who said that again, but it's about who are you really? Are you in that connection, yes or no? Because a lot of people who are not a real coach, even if they did education, a lot of people don't even have the education. And I think that that's very wrong, because there's a lot important to learn as a coach before you go into coaching. But it's the I don't know if you know, well, I guess you know, the transference and the countertransference. And people that are not the real coach, they have a lot of problems with transference and countertransference. And that's where we're talking about where you actually work your own problems through your client.
Yeah.
And that strikes me the most. And that's why I keep going. Every time I speak to a coach, you say, oh, I had that experience and I made it into a coach practice. And I'm kind of like, okay, but that's your
countertransference. Yes, that's your thing. And maybe we can say a few words about transference and countertransference to those who might not be familiar with this, because a lot of people...
Yes, please.
Yes, please. because what like we have viewers from leadership, HR, and they might not be familiar with this jargon.
I can tell you a very nice example which shows an example for that. That was when I was doing my education, not as a coach, but as a therapist, bioenergetic therapist. And that's where we work with the body. And we had, of course, you work with your co-students. And we had one moment that one of us was the therapist and the other one was the client. And the client was laying down. And in body work, you watch what's going on. And the client had the hands here at the throat and said like, oh, I'm almost choking and it has to do with my throat. And then the therapist said, no, it's about your heart. And he kept going onto the heart problem, but that was not at all. The therapist, he had heart issues with the heart, with connection and love and things like that. So his issue was put on the client, although the client had no heart issue at all.
Yes.
See, and that's where he puts, because he didn't, of course, he learned from that, luckily. That's why you're doing an education. So that was such a great example how we can do wrong with our clients, that we are putting our problem as being their problem and then find sort of solution. But it's not from your client.
Yeah.
So you're giving the wrong solution.
Yes. And also it's not helpful. I'm happy to add another example from a different perspective also. Like, for example, when somebody's coming in, like a client is coming in and is probably insecure about something. And when the coach responds with cautiousness to that, so is not able to pick it up as just insecurity, but believe it's a response, is an inherent response from the past, from earlier attachments in relationships where the young child became coach has learned to be cautious when somebody else feels insecure, not to hurt or to be very cautious, when actually, and that's the counter-transference bit. So the client is bringing the insecurity as a transference, also transferring something from her past into the coaching room. And then in response to that, the coach is responding with cautiousness, which is her problem, her issue around herself, and how she's responding to insecurity. And rather than pick it up as, oh, insecurity is in the room, what is that about? So automatically turning on the countertrend, what we call countertransference pattern.
Yes. And I think there's a lot of coaching where that happens. I hear that a lot happening. I see it happening. And I think with the right education, you can make sure you're not doing that, because it really can harm your client.
And then the next question is, what is the right education? Because in the documentary, Carla, we're also talking about, I think, a few times about, I think there is, in the third part, if I'm not mistaken, we are talking about development, the light and the shadow sides of development. What is it that you picked up? What was the most significant thing that you picked up about the coach development with this? What is the right, where are we with developing coaches right now in our 21st century, 2023, so to speak?
Yeah, what I really love that I picked really well is the amount of people and at high level and having influence, like the ICF, and to really go for worldwide, make sure that we have a good education, that it's available and that people know about it. And what I really would wish with that is that globally we get these rules on it, that we are, or I can't get to the English word, recognized as a educational work. Not
educational work, yeah. Okay, yes, it's educational work, yeah.
Yeah. So and more people were talking about that. So I was really happy with that, to hear that. I didn't know it was at such a high level that they're really fighting for that, to get recognition and with rules on that. And instead of, because I know there are coaching educations, they call it coaching education, but they learn a certain program, but they learn nothing about coaching. I've done one of those. And I was really surprised. And I told them, like, wait a minute, you call these people now coach, even they don't have a coach education. You're doing nothing about coaching. And I think that happens a lot. There are a lot of educations out there. So I think we need to have really rules on that. And yeah, they really got into there with in the documentary about that we need the rules.
And I'm Michael, can I ask you about, because you have a coach yourself, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What is it that you, I mean, I don't know what level of information you have about that coach's education. Do you as a client ever wonder what is the level of education that the person is now here and trying to guide me or accompany me on my developmental journey or something? What is the level of thought that you put into this?
I think as a client speaking, it's very hard to know what kind of education for a coach has or how this compares to another coach if it's not certified, because you have like very different professions or fields calling themselves coach, and as a client it's really hard to know if someone is certified or what does this even mean. If we compare this to going to the doctor, you know that there are certain professions and a medical board, and you can practice if you don't have a certification or some kind of education. And this also, as a client, gives you the confidence in the doctor or in the coach. And on the other hand, you would, or at least I would then be more willing to pay more or go a further distance because this coach or doctor would better suit my needs.
And in your own work with your own coach, so you don't know which level of education the coach has really. So what sort of certification she has or he has, I don't know if it's a male or female person.
No, but I don't think that's really advertised, or I don't think clients would know to look for that, to be honest. So,
and how can you trust then? How can you trust that you're trusting somebody to guide
well,
you?
it's on a interpersonal level, I would say. So in the first meeting, you always are talking, what would you like to do? Who are you? What sort of needs do you want to talk about? And I think that's the only kind of confidence builder, or if you don't know what you're looking for, even if there's certain certification, I wouldn't know what does it mean. For a doctor, I would know this is for the heart, for the lung, but for coaching, even if there's a certain program or saying certified as a special coach, I as a client wouldn't really know what does this mean. So even in the beginning, it's about having global standard, as Carla said, but also building and educating the public on what's coaching, what kind of programs are there, what do you have to look for, because I think coaching starts to be used as a generic term almost today.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, is there something that comes up for you in response to what Michael was saying?
Yeah, and that also was in the documentary, that a good coach is actually bringing the power from the client back up, and the self-sustainability, the self-worth, etc. And it's about learning, teaching, whatever you want to call it, the client to dissolve his or her own problems in the future. And what I see over here a lot, I get so many people that say like, well, I had so many years of coaching or therapy and things like that, and I have all the insights. And I always ask like, okay, it's great to have all these insights, but what did they teach you to do with it? How did you integrate that into your life? Because that's where the change is happening. And that doesn't happen a lot of times.
Yeah.
So that is what we need in coaches. Now, that's what we need written down, that we get these clients not only insights, but their power back, their knowledge back. They know, I mean, everybody knows, and that's been said as well, everybody knows inside everything. We know how to deal with life. We know how to deal with ourselves, with problems, with everything. It's just a lot of crap put on there, belief systems, etc., experiences, that it's underneath there, and we can't grab it no more, that power and that connection with ourselves to find solutions. So in education, we really need to have written down, have like, I don't know, it has to be on your diploma or certification, that you know how to get that back, so the client can take over his or her own life again and do it by his or herself the rest of his life.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing actually, when we come back to the light and the shadow side of education, it's not enough to have a certification, because it can say everything or nothing, right? As Michael was saying, to the client, the certification, no matter how high or hailed as super, the client can't work with it. It's not tangible what to do with it. So basically, the light and the shadow side is then, on one hand, to communicate, as Michael was saying, communicate with the public, or maybe educate the client even before, to speak about stuff like this, to address like, what is the worth of the education, what education, why it's important, to what extent it's not important, where's the limits of a certification when it comes to real learning and developmental path. So to have an educational dialogue with a client about this, and that also that certificates can be worth nothing, not even the paper that they're printed on. So to be discerning around this, because there's a big hype about certification today. While on the one hand, a lot of coaches are not certified at all and claim that they can coach just as well as a certified coach.
Yes.
And it's true. I have seen coaches do work, beautiful work, and they were not certified at all. They had no idea about coaching psychology. They had no idea about anything. They were just somehow tuned in, did a beautiful piece of work. And so it creates a little bit of questioning in ourselves, right? So are we running for the big hype because I'm certified, I am worth it? Am I really doing the work that needs to be done, as you said, Carla, that the people can really make the transformation and have the power to transform the learning, the insights into doing, or what, right? So it's
yeah, I think that's the most important part, that we transform, that basically that we give everything to the client so they can transform themselves.
Yeah,
I mean, we are not doing it. We are just giving some roads to go, some tips to use, things like that, so they can do it themselves. I cannot change anybody. I can't, but I can help them find their own power, their own knowledge to change themselves.
Yeah, and speaking as a client, I think for coaching, one problem I see is that some people don't or want to disclose they have coaching or who they are going to. And I think this is the most important way as for another client to learn about the coach, to hear from someone who is in coaching or has worked with that coach. But some parts of the world, even I think in Europe, it is still kind in some respect. It's not so easy to say I'm having a problem or I seeing someone. And once again, I think that has to be changing people's minds to speak about that in general has to be done through education and to public work.
Yeah. So it seems to be also our job, our ethical calling to make sure that the people feel safe with it, that so that they can stand up to what they are doing. So there's not this, because there are vulnerabilities around this, very deep vulnerabilities around coming, and I'm aware of those things, Michael. I don't know, Carla, what would you say to that?
I think it's a lot of people don't know what coaching is. I know we met on LinkedIn on a post. That's how we got connected, on a post where coaching was really put down as a very, very negative, stupid thing, basically, just in short, new words. And there was, I mean, this post got so many reactions, and most of them were negative. But what I could read in there, they didn't know what they were talking about. They had no clue what it was. And they had the experiences from people, listening to people, or maybe from themselves, to have coaches who were not educated, who were not connected. And so all that negativity, and we all tend to have more negative reactions to things than the positive ones. You never hear the positive things, almost never. And we could see that. I think there were like a couple of hundreds reactions to that post. And just, I think it was maybe like 5% was about positive about coaching. But then you could see these were people who knew what good coaching would be, that you would listen to the client, that the client is there to transform themselves, to get their power back and everything they need for that, and to educate people in that. So we need more education overall, since coaching is going to be bigger and bigger. I mean, corporate, private, doesn't matter. It's getting bigger and bigger. So we need more education out there. What is good coaching? What does somebody need to be able to do, what knowledge, whatever, to be a good coach?
To be of value, to serve.
There you go.
To serve the people that trust us to serve them.
Yes.
Basically, yeah. Well, I would like to come to this to the idea of ethics, Carla, a little bit. I think there was in one of the parts, in the third part. I'm not sure why I'm going to the third part today. I'm skipping part 1 and part 2 all the time. I'm coming to we're getting to that third part, Carla. Why are we doing this?
That's okay.
and I don't have to go there if you don't want to get.
No, that's okay. I did love the third part. So I was a lot connected. The second part was more about organizational, and I'm not an organization coach. So I love the third part. Yeah.
Okay. So you're happy to go that place and
yes,
to explore that and talk about ethics. When you were watching the ethics part, there was a bit about talking how important ethics is, and what is your take on this? How ethical do you see, or what's the point of ethics in coaching at all? It's not being talked about a lot, yeah. And when it's only like in dedicated circles, as far as I'm aware of, what is your take on the light and the shadow side of around this the issue of ethics in coaching?
Well, ethics for me, and I was glad it was touched in there too. We have different values as people. We have different values as a country. I mean, I lived in the States and for a couple of years, and they think and act different. And there's nothing wrong. It's all okay. It's just different. And for me, ethics goes with that. When I did a world travel, and that always struck me, and that's how I connected that to coaching as well, is I knew I was going to Nepal. And in the Netherlands, if there was a small child and we would pat him on the head, it would be like, hey, you're doing okay. It's great. In Nepal, never do that. Don't do that. You're really putting somebody really low if you do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's ethics. Knowing, for me then, knowing where another person stands, how are they raised? In what culture are they raised? When I did teach physician assistants for a long time. And we had one time a lady that came from another culture that we look at people when we talk to them, we look in their eyes. In their culture, you never look in their eyes. You look to the side. Here, we think like, oh, you're not really a nice person if you do that, if you don't watch my eyes, my face. So not knowing about other cultures, about how are they raised, what are their standards, then as a coach, you should know that. Or at least ask, like, hey, ask clarification. If you see something that's different from what you know, ask, how is that in your culture, or where does it come from that you do this or that? If we don't do that, we're not ethical.
Yeah. So there is this cultural element to this. The knowledge, I picked up this thing, you need to know these things. So there is an obligation to be informed and to inform ourselves, to educate ourselves around what is the other person's world, what makes it tick, sort of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm working now with people in the USA, and coming from Holland, here in Holland, we are very straightforward.
Yeah.
Thank you. You recognize it, I guess. And doing that in the United States is not really the way we do that here. We used to it here. It's not really a thing over there. In Holland, we are very down to earth, like over enthusiasm. It's not our thing. In the United States, it's their thing. It's normal for them. So working with them, I was glad I lived there for a couple of years and I got to know those things. So as a coach, you need to know that. You need to know how to approach somebody. So it's up to their way of living. It's their standards. It's where they feel safe with. I mean, if I would just like bang, like we did it here and give my whatever I think like straight that way, I would hurt them. I would hurt their feelings. So we cannot do that. Yeah. That's not ethical. So you need to know who is in front of you, at least, and go with your intuition, connect with your heart, go for your intuition so you can be ethical.
Michael, what is the listening to Carla and her examples, I was thinking of you because, we are coaches and we are coming. This is a totally different perspective that we are taking a look at ethics. When you come in as a client, what would be unethical for you as a client when you look at a coach?
I think it's like every relationship you have, you want there's a certain level of trust, and for that trust not to be broken or misuse the information you're disclosing in this relationship. So I think that's one of the biggest fears as a client and ethical mishap, that if you have to take care of the trust in this relationship.
Yeah, so that's something that is important for you, this how the coach is handling the trust that you are putting in him or her.
Yeah, because I think that this relationship for coaching, a very big basis is the trust. Without trusting, I don't think positive result can come out of the coaching.
And that I don't know about you, but we in our world, we say the client cannot open up. Say that. We would say, I don't know, you didn't say that. So I'm saying I'm owning it, what I'm saying here, Michael. I'm not putting it into you, yeah? I'm really owning that this is, and it's such an automatism. So feeling safe, actually the trust is also broken down to this feeling safe with someone. And then if I feel safe, I can trust you. If I can trust you, I can work with you, sort of thing. But it's easier said than done. And then how this is being handled as a GAM, in its precious nature. Okay, I'm hearing you. I would like to bring in an example, and then I'm also going to watch the time to see that we are not overrunning. It was very interesting that I'm noticing, because I'm interested a lot in ethics, and it's not a coincidence that we brought up the topic of ethics, because, for example, when we look at the professional bodies and their websites, what they are, the code of ethics. So everybody has got a code of ethics, yeah. But when you look at those code of ethics, it's a very abstract piece of writing, a piece of idea. It's a cloud, it's something like a cloud, like be careful sort of thing. I mean, I'm probably too much simplifying it, but it feels like as if it were some cloud. But when I work with coaches as a supervisor, and I'm noticing that there is no sense making of what is ethical and what not, really. So coaches are doing stuff that they believe is ethical when it's absolutely unethical. And I'll give you an example. So a coach was having an intake call, and with a CEO, actually, an intake call. And after the intake call, it was free of charge. Okay. And after the intake call, a few weeks later, the CEO decided to not go for that coach and do coaching with that coach. Following which, the coach invoiced the CEO for the intake call. And this escalated to a professional coaching organization, because the client didn't want to pay the intake call because it was not contracted. And what the coach did was just remained static about her point of view, insisting that the intake call ought to be paid. So it needed litigation, and it needed, and the coach was actually punished, and it was excluded from and lost the certification, because and wasn't even aware that it would be unethical. In her view, she thought that the intake call should be paid, but she didn't do the right contracting around this. So that's why the professional coaching body ruled that she was wrong, but she wasn't aware of this. So coming back, Carla, to the education bit, what is this education that we are getting in coaching? It's on one hand so beautiful, because we get skills, and we get taught in skills, and I don't know what, and principles. But on the other hand, there is a lot missing.
Yeah, but besides that, what I hear also is that's also cultural. Because what's normal in one country or in maybe within one country, I mean, if I would go here, Amsterdam or a small village, they have different standards, and they go around with everything in a different way. So it might be at one place normal to pay for an intake, and another place totally not. And that's why it's so important to just have it written down and talk about it.
Yeah.
And maybe even record it. I don't know, but that is really what I encounter a lot. What's normal for you is not normal for another person.
And to be aware of this, to be aware of this, that don't take things for granted, sort of, right?
Yes, definitely. And that's what we do a lot. And we talk about me. How many times was said in the documentary, it's about me for a lot of people. So if I talk only about me, that's where these mistakes are made easily. And coaching is not about me. It's about the other person.
And
it's
their
about your client.
And their system and their culture and their world, actually, as we interact with them.
Go to Japan, and you have to do things in a completely different way than when you would go to Australia. It's ethics, it's culture. There's so many influences. So besides that, we need like a global ruling. It's also that has to be navigated to a country's ruling. What is normal in that country? And then make that like official. And then everybody who has the right education with that, they know that. And so we can make a lot less mistakes.
Yeah.
And a lot less of hassle, because a situation like you just described, two people are basically a sort of victim here because there was miscommunication, misunderstanding, a lot going on.
Yeah. And I'm also hearing like there are different layers of culture. There's a microculture, the client's culture, then there's the coach's culture, then there is the meso culture, the organizational culture, and then we have got the macro culture, the national culture, and then there is, I don't know, the whole universe probably that's also in itself. How it's the globe is turning on its axis, around its axis. So there is really complexity in this, right? What I'm hearing is you're referring to this. There's really many layers of culture happening, and I'm hearing, and all the language barriers as well. Because what is the word that is clear to me may have a different significance for you.
Because we hear everything from our beliefs and our way of thinking and our experiences, and you may mean this, and I can hear that.
Yeah. Even here, right? The Dutch and from Austrian with Hungarian background, and I don't know, and Michael. So it's different languages speaking, cultural languages and language culture speaking.
Yeah, but also just, I mean, if I would have a Dutch client here in front of me, there it can be different because I'm coming from a different background than they are. Yeah. So words can have a different meaning. So as a coach, we need to listen really well and be aware that other people might think another way, and that we are open for that, and that we search inside and look and listen to the client, like what is going on there, instead of just watching from our point of view.
Also in the documentary, I think a lot of different people from different cultures are featured and have quite different ideas. Was there one part which was really strange to you, or which you had to disagree with what was said?
I cannot find a part that I disagreed. Mm-hmm. I only was surprised how many times I felt like, oh, I'm glad they say that. Yeah, that's how I live, how I look at it. So I was really surprised with that. No, I can't say, not what I can just grab now, that there was something I disagreed with. No.
Mm. And is there something that we might have added? Because, you know, I'm just myself, and I'm also limited in what I'm aware of. And in how I was picking and choosing the topics and the people. And even when we were having the interviews, to be honest, I didn't know what I would be speaking about. I was just I just knew that, okay, I would like to speak to XY, to Jeff Hall or to Professor David Clutterbuck or Claire Patrick. I just wanted to have those people in the room. But I didn't know what I would be speaking about. And sometimes the dialogues were an hour, sometimes 1.5 hours, sometimes 2 hours. We even had 2-hour sessions. And it's interesting that within this limitation that I was having, I wasn't aware. I was sometimes, you know, in this, am I potentially leaving something out? What is it that we still need to know and put on the table here as well? So, and being aware of that limitation that I'm bringing here in through my humanity, is there something that you, from your humanity, would have liked to be seen represented that we can discuss shortly, or some point of view that?
Well, actually, I did that already with you, because I did have 2 topics that I did miss out. That was the cultural thing, and that was the transference and counter-transference.
Yeah.
So I brought that in already. I really had in my mind, I want to bring those topics in here, because I did miss those in the documentary. Yes.
Okay. So I'm glad that we somehow we came to that, to give it space and time.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm glad to. Yeah, and I would love to hear. I mean, you're gonna do a lot more podcasting, and I would love to hear more views from people around those 2 topics.
Around this,
I don't know. Yeah, about how do they think about transferring? What do they encounter in that, and with cultural aspects and differences?
well, hopefully I'm not sounding too arrogant, but there might be even coaches who are not familiar with those terms. Yeah.
So I'm sure. I meet a lot of those people. When I say those words, they go like, huh? What are you talking about?
So it is great that we are picking it up, because it's always there. It's there it's such a precious theme that you brought up, because it is a micro level dialogue, but it's actually creating macro level impact.
Yes, definitely.
Because it's always there. It's always potential. Let's put it like this way, to be cautious. It's can be potentially there, and where's the awareness around this? Because it can make and break the coaching result.
Definitely, but also can make or break a person.
And make and break a person.
I've really talked to people who had, well, you cannot call it the big trauma, but yeah, I still would say like a sort of trauma from that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, super. Dear Carla, why would you inspire the people? So on the basis of what would you call the people to, hey, come on, guys, watch this documentary. What is it in for you that you believe why people should not what's in for you, but what was in for you when you watched it that you would like to pass on to them as an inspiration to watch it?
Well, I think for me, it was, I would even think so much more deeper on several topics. I mean, there's so many topics that are there in the documentary. I did learn a lot from that. And I think as coach, you're never ended with learning, with educate yourself more to get more insights. I did hear things that I wasn't even aware of. It's like, oh, wow, or that they were so important, or levels in that. So there's so much to learn, but also to get inspired. There's really, it's a huge inspiration to work even in a nicer, better, more connected way with the clients.
Yeah. It's also for me, like you say, inspire, but why should we be inspired? What's the value in being inspired, Carla?
Yeah, I think there's a huge value, because that does so much with energy and with motivation. If I get inspired on certain levels, I am a lot more motivated to change something or do something or learn something more. Inspiration. I mean, I hear a lot of people say, like, oh gosh, you inspired me so much, I'm gonna go, and they go into action. And so what can be better than that? Inspire people. And your documentary is really inspiring on different levels, on different topics. So yeah, we learn more, and I was even more happy to be a coach. So I was already happy, but it really made me even more, well, again, there's the word, proud to be a coach and be able to help people find themselves again and start living themselves again. So
thank you very
definitely
much.
Go watch it. Besides the fact that this is also helping your people, your women in Kenya. So, Michael, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I wanted to say thank you for coming on and bringing some of the topics we missed in the documentary to light.
Yeah.
Thank you. Glad I did that.
And Michael, don't close it for me, please. I wanted to ask you a question about inspiration.
Okay.
What is it, before we close this, is do you feel inspired by coaching? And if so, what would that be? That do you in any way feel like, because we're talking as coaches like inspiration, for us, it's our currency, right? and Carla was beautifully saying like why there is value in inspiration. And do you feel inspired by coaching in any way, or by your coach? Or
I would say yes, definitely. But I wouldn't word it as inspiration. I would say motivation, to be honest. Because often we kind of know, as Carla said, we know much about ourselves, about our body, about our situation. And in many cases, you need a certain force to nudge you or give you the motivation and reflection to implement, as Carla has said.
I like that. I like that, to implement.
Right. And also, it's like when it makes sense, like as motivation for you, we are using our jargon in coaching, like inspiration. So, but it's also interesting because clients always use a different language to describe some phenomenon that we are so in love with when we talk.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating. So it was so enriching. Michael, thank you so much for bringing in your world and allowing me to ask you about this, to disclose and share something about your experience about coaching. Thank you so much to both of you.
Yeah, and I want to thank Michael too, because you inspired me again to even think more about certain things. So with the words you used, and Tünde,
it was a pleasure.
Yeah, I can imagine. I saw that. So really, really nice. And Tünde, I want to thank you so much for this great talk that we had. And I feel lifted up.
Absolutely. It went so deep. I felt calmer and calmer when it's also so different to the first time. It was so deep and calm, for me, soothing and calming, and it's so beautiful to listen to your voice, to be honest.
Thank you.
I can literally hear your heart beat at this 0.1 hertz, like that you were saying. So beautiful and there's this frequency to listen to. So thank you very much for taking your time and investing and being a donor and supporting this. And it's great to see that you want to give 1 million people the opportunity to discover their voices in their heart.
Thank you so much. And I will keep going with that.
Cool. So now that we are on top of our time, dear listeners, if you're interested in getting instant access to the documentary, please go to www.coachingdocu.com. And if you have comments or questions and how you can be part of this initiative, drop us a line at podcast@coachingdocu.com. This is The Light and the Shadow of Coaching in and Beyond Organizations production, a documentary that was made to fund social impact through coaching for women in Kenya. And this is my guest, Carla Jansen van Rosendaal. And you can reach Carla at...
Well, make it in life-mindcreation.com.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So feel free to ask questions and leave your comments with her. And stay tuned. And until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.